From Wish TV and the All Indiana Podcast Network, this is the Business, Equity, and Opportunities Podcast with Scott Sander.
Welcome to the Business, Equity, and Opportunities Podcast. I'm Scott Sander. On this episode, we are getting started with Corey Poirier. He's the founder of Blue Talks and has a new book coming out, How You Can Become a Better Leader, and a T.H.R.I.V.E Program graduate who will inspire you.
Every business is unique and has a target audience. If you own or manage a business, Circulus Digital Media can help you connect and grow your customer base with turnkey digital solutions that are nimble, offering best-in-class results, service, and support to reach a bigger customer base, allowing you to pinpoint a specific audience down to the smallest details. Get outside the city, the state, span the globe. Put Circulus Digital Media to work for you. Get started now at circulusdigital.com. That's circulusdigital.com.
We are getting started with Corey Poirier. He's the founder of Blue Talks. He's done a number of TEDx events and keynote speeches and has a new book coming out. Says it's inspired by the thousands of interviews he's done with some of the world's top influencers. The book is The Enlightened Passenger, billed as a blend of self-help wisdom and a bit of storytelling.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Getting started.
So my name is Corey Poirier, and first of all, I've been an entrepreneur, a TEDx speaker, an author for years now. So probably, I think I go back to age 19. I started my first business, which was a business publication, so a newspaper where I went around and interviewed entrepreneurs. That goes back to 1996. And so that's kind of where I started this journey. And then I went into the corporate world. I had actually moved across the country. I think I had like $600 in my pocket. Moved across the country and then went into working in the corporate world, Fortune 500 company, and then a Global 1000 company. And then from there, I found my way back into entrepreneurship as a speaker. Also got obsessed with interviewing people. So for those that would know of the book, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, he interviewed thousands of thought leaders. And I think I've even surpassed the number he was at solely because I became obsessed with trying to figure out what makes people tick and what allows them to get to the top 1%. So the book's called The Enlightened Passenger. It's somewhat unique in different ways in the sense that it's a fictional parable. But it's still in the vein of maybe called self-help. But I often say in a lot of ways, it's like we're in self-help, but we're kind of, I don't want to use the word tricking, but pulling you into learning while you're just reading a story. But basically the premise is it's two strangers on a plane, an older stranger and a younger stranger. Older stranger's name is T.H.R.I.V.E, T.R.I.V.E. Younger one is Robert. And basically Robert is a arrogant, pretty sure business person, younger, who thinks I can do anything on my own. I don't need any help. He books actually the second seat beside him in first class so he doesn't have to sit it by anybody. Falls asleep, wakes up, this older gentleman sitting beside him. He's surprised. The older gentleman introduces himself. Robert, the younger guy, doesn't really care to learn anything. He pretends he's going to go to sleep until he learns that the older guy has actually become rich. And he wants to know how he made his money. And ultimately, what he finds out is, yes, he was rich financially, but more importantly, he's rich as a person. And so the older guy, during the flight, through his life journey, teaches Robert a certain amount of lessons about how to live a fulfilling life. So what I've said recently is no is the new yes. And what I mean by that is it may actually be more important to understand the power of no than the power of yes. So for me, just the quick backstory is I grew up in a small little town. My grandfather told me, say yes to everything. That's the way to get ahead in life. So that was ingrained into me. And then I started interviewing all these thought leaders. And by the way, I heard Richard Branson said this quote one time, say yes to everything and figure out how to do it later. So I'm like, this guy's running 200 businesses and he says yes to everything. My grandfather, who I admire so much, says yes to everything. And then I started interviewing these thought leaders and I noticed they were saying no. And not just no, they were saying no 20 to 50 times more than the average person. So then I got conflicted, like which is right? And so then I dug and found the Richard Branson quote, and it was actually paraphrased the first time I heard it. What it actually said is, say yes to everything that you love, and then figure out how to do it later. The that you love part is pretty important. And so then I started studying the no's from these thought leaders. And what I discovered is they were saying no to all the things that weren't aligned with what they wanted to do, or no to all things that wouldn't move the needle, so they could say yes to the few things that will move the needle. So I had to reprogram myself. And I feel the easiest way to do that is to start with smaller ones that are easier to say no to. I want to clarify, you also have to know what a no and a yes is in your work. In other words, don't say no to your boss because Corey said so. You know, you got to figure out, you still have to use common sense. You just can't say, nope, I'm not doing anything. I mean, you got to use common sense. But in that case, it might be, what are the no's and yeses within my job? And maybe even talk to your boss and say, here's what I'm trying a new practice on. Are you okay with me saying no to these type of things? And at least make them aware of it. But in either case, I believe if you can work on the muscle of saying no now, you're going to be much further ahead down the road, because this is an important thing I mention these days a lot, which is that everything you say yes to is truly a no to something else. So building wealth, I think, so for me, there's two sides to it. There's the building wealth for the sake of building wealth, meaning like what are the strategies around how to increase, if you're a business owner, your revenue and ideally your profit. There's that side. But then there's what I'll call the ways to create abundance, which might be a little bit more holistic. So this is going to sound really strange for some people, but I've studied this, and at least I can speak for my truth on it, is this word called synchronicity, which for most people, they might call it coincidence. What I would say, if you're going to call it coincidence, maybe describe some of them as meaningful coincidences. Like, what are the ones that you can place a meaning on? So this is going to sound strange, but I've built a lot of my business through leaning into these synchronicities. So when I say a synchronicity, I mean something happens and you can decide, do I lean in on this or do I ignore this? And so for me, I've decided to lean in, and I've been fascinated by how much it's impacted my life. So those are some things I talk about in the book that might not be as traditional, if you will, but I will say, even what I mentioned earlier, the idea of saying no will help your business, because you're only saying yes then. You're being very discreet about what you say yes to, which is going to help your business because you're saying yes to the things that are the right things. And to give somebody a tip for how to do that, like how to decide in a no or yes, what I did is I created a personal mission statement. Now, that's for me and the business. And every company pretty much that's thriving has a mission statement, whether the employees know or not. So what I did was I wrote my own, which is to be the guy who motivates, donates, educates, inspires, and entertains. And so how that relates to my no and yes is, if somebody asks me to take something on, I look at those. How many of those is it? If it's 4, it's the easiest yes I'll say without regret. If it's 0 or 1, it's the easiest no I'll say without regret. So that's another way that I started increasing business from maybe you want to call it an organic point of view. So hopefully those are some okay strategies for how people can do it, even if they're not your traditional, again, invest in this or do this.
Today's industry focus is on leadership coaching. According to the 2023 International Coaching Federation Global Coaching Study, number of coaching professionals surged by 54% between 2019 and 2022. Heather Lowy is a life coach who specializes in empowering leaders to realize their full potential. She's helping entrepreneurs and small business owners chart their own path to success.
This is Business, Equity, and Opportunities. Industry Focus.
Yeah, so I'm Heather Lowy, and I'm a life and leadership coach. And I work directly with clients and teams to discover the obvious about themselves. And we make small, sustainable changes that have transformative impact. I think one of the big things is really creating space. Creating a space for yourself to think and to process, because it's very easy to get caught up in the motions and go through all the things that we think we need to do, and we probably do need to do. But pausing and creating intentional pauses to be really, really intentional with our next steps. We can get very caught up in what we default into, what we know, right? Obviously, somebody that's starting a business, it's been something that they've thought about and they dream, and it's a desire of theirs. But it's really making those intentional steps and surrounding themselves with people who are doing the thing that they want to do. Having those mentors, having those coaches around them that can point out the things that may not be obvious to them in the moment. Breaking down, demystifying those limiting beliefs that they may have. Talking about them, right? Really identifying what those things are, what they really fear. It's easy for those thoughts to roll around in our head and for us to take them as truth. But really breaking them down talking to someone, even writing. I suggest to a lot of people, journal it, write it down. It's much different when you look at things on a piece of paper versus it tumbling around in your head with 6,000 other thoughts in a day. As an entrepreneur, probably 8,000 other thoughts in a day, right? And it's easy to think, well, we've thought about this and we're overcoming it, but we really might not be. And so it's embracing and going at those things head on. When you find yourself getting stuck in your own head, right? And having those moments where you have that lonely at the top. I work with a lot of leaders who are like, I have nobody else to talk to about these things that are going on because confidentiality or not wanting to worry the teams, etc. And so the one thing I would say is find someone who you really, really connect with. I know myself and a lot of other coaches offer free discovery sessions. And that's really for a couple of reasons. One reason being we want to make sure it's a fit for the client, but also for us. I have had a number of people who are coming to me and kind of looking for something different than I think that I have to offer. And so having that Rolodex of other coaches to say, hey, try to reach out to this person. But I think my point about that is find somebody who you really connect with, but not only connect with, but that's going to challenge you. What is it you're looking for in this coaching agreement? And that's really important. If you want to be challenged, then you need to find somebody who's going to challenge you. If you want accountability partnership, find somebody who's going to be that accountability partner. I joke often that I become the hype woman for a lot of my people as they're going on and doing things, and we do a lot of celebrating when they've been working on something really hard. We often forget to pause and celebrate, and so really looking at that through the lens of like, okay, you accomplished something before we just move on to that next thing. Again, going back to that space, right? Creating that space to really pause, reflect, celebrate, and then take the next step. Often in small, mid-sized companies, even like large companies, don't always have an HR department, or their HR department is stretched so thin that development of their leaders, development of their teams has to be an afterthought and to no fault of their own. But having somebody like a coach that comes in that's really integrated into the organization, maybe working with some leaders as a coach, to then take their team through some topics in a workshop. I do a lot of workshops around effective and empathetic feedback. We're often scared as leaders to give feedback, or it's that thing that's on that list that we keep avoiding, right? And so how do we embrace feedback as really not only a necessary part of the job, but something that could be a really great team building event, right? We also talk about strategic planning. Sometimes it's really about balance. How do we as a team want to look at balance? I like to actually call it work-life integration, and think about how we as a team integrate our work and our life, and really get that understanding from person to person of how they're doing it. It helps us empathize with each other as we're a part of this leadership team. So kind of extending what we do in coaching with the leaders to really get the team thinking and reflecting together. We go through a process of discovery and then reflection about that and exploration about that before we move into action. What the workshop does is it creates space. It creates time for people to think and stop reacting in the moment to really understand their internal landscape. And so then we can set up goals around, okay, what is causing the stress within the team? And to each individual, that could be a little different, And so we talk about that as a team. It gets the team to open up and to share, and people walk out often, hugging, reflecting in different ways. And it's really exciting to see the teams come together in a really impactful way. It continues to expand. There's a lot of companies who are investing in their people. It's part of their employee package to have access into coaching in some way, shape, or form. And then in terms of workshops and things, we're seeing an uptick of just companies realizing that development. It helps with retention of the employees. It helps with when you have high talent, but maybe don't have that next position open for them to move to. It's a really nice way to keep them engaged, to think differently about their career, and they feel poured into, that the company cares and are looking out for their development.
Welcome back. This is Business Equity and Opportunities, one of our favorite segments, the success story. Nicole Peters is the owner of Service Pipe and Supply and a graduate of the SBA Thrive Executive Leadership Program. She shares her story, and we look at how the Thrive experience may be valuable to you, too.
This is Business Equity and Opportunities Success Story.
My name is Nicole Peters. I'm the president of Service Pipe and Supply, and we are in our warehouse here downtown Indianapolis. Our company is over 50 years old. We're third generation, family owned. My husband's grandfather started it, and as the story goes, he was in sales of these product lines, and he started out of a station wagon, had a little shop on the southeast corner of Indianapolis, and then eventually was able to acquire this warehouse. After his passing and after his wife's passing, their 4 children took over the business, and they were able to continue those loyal relationships. They were able to continue to grow in the Indianapolis and surrounding areas. And then when it was their turn to kind of step out of the business and retire, my husband and I were like, we want the legacy to continue. We want the Peters family name to continue to be out there, but more importantly, to serve the community. So we came in December 2019, right before a pandemic, and we came in and we said, all right, let's continue with our loyal customer base. Let's grow the customer base. Let's keep the family value system, but let's expand. And so for the last 4 years, that's what we've worked on. We have very high moral values. We want a family atmosphere, but we want to be seen as innovators. We want to be seen as part of our community. We want to be seen as building Indianapolis with our contractors. And so we've really modernized over the last 4 years to reach those communities. So my journey started when I became a member of the Indy Chamber. And through that membership, I learned about community resources and specifically the Small Business Administration. I went to a Women in Business retreat with the Indy Chamber where I learned about the Small Business Administration, the resources they give, and I learned about Rhonda, and she told me about the Thrive program, so that's how I get here today. Through Thrive, I got to meet other business owners as well, and we were able to share ideas. I got to learn from their successes. And then also additionally, through the course, 6 months, I was able to lay out a business plan. I was able to say, this is what we want to achieve. This is what I would need to do, from anything from capital and funding to creating a human resources plan, creating budgets, getting on social media and marketing avenues. I was learning to do in each of those areas, what do I need to do to make these plans work? And so far, a lot of those things have already been achieved, and we have on the docket more plans that we're going to keep working on through this year and in the years to come.
The Thrive program is an SBA program. It's an executive leadership program. So this is a program for some of those business owners that maybe feel like they've been forgotten about because they've been working in their business, they've had a small business, 3, 5, 10, 15, second or third generation business for years and years and years. But this Thrive program, it's an executive leadership business that teaches small business owners how to work on their business instead of just in it. It's about strategy. It's about resource. It's about growth. It's about expansion. And you can't do any of that if you're bogged down in the everyday of working in your business instead of on that overall strategy. So what the Thrive program is, it's executive leadership. It teaches small business owners through expert coaching, through resources, through connection, about how to be strategic when they go to grow their business. One of the great things about Thrive is the fact that this is a free program. This is basically getting a mini MBA in 7 months' time for no money out of your pocket. All it costs is time. It's an executive leadership program. Apply today because applications are being accepted. Deadline is May 10th. Classes start in June, and we graduate our next cohort in December.
My goal as a business owner has been to take care of our employees. I want my employees to go home feeling like they had a successful day at work, and that when they go home to their families, they get to say, I can take care of my family, I can provide, I can be part of my communities because what I did during the day filled me. So our goal has been since day one to take care of the employees. As that continues to grow, we want to expand that to our communities. So now it's expanded. I want us to be part of volunteering. My husband and I are big volunteers in our community in Center Grove, and I want our employees to start feeling like they're enabled to do that. When our employees can do that, now the people we serve, our customers can do that. Our vendors can do that. They can be part of their communities because they left feeling great about what happened here in their interactions with us.
Our thanks again to all the contributors who joined us for this episode of the Business Equity and Opportunities podcast. We hope you found it enlightening, useful, and inspiring. You'll find more information about the show on our website, BEOshow.com. You can watch Business Equity and Opportunities Sunday mornings at 10 on Wish TV or live stream it through wishtv.com. Each week we provide 7 full segments with topics ranging from how to get started and how to access capital to the day-to-day running of your business and questions about accounting and bookkeeping. We feature business news and trends and always share a success story from one of our contributors. Join us next time for more insights into the world of small business. Be sure to sign up for our Business Equity and Opportunities newsletter to get even more valuable, up-to-date information. And if you have any questions or you'd like to be part of our show, please email us. The address is beo@wishtv.com. We'd love to hear from you. I'm Scott Sander. Thanks for listening.
Watch the Business Equity and Opportunity Show on Wish TV and access all of our content and share it on demand anytime at BEOshow.com. You can find more podcasts from Wish TV on the All Indiana Podcast Network at allindianapodcastnetwork.com.